How's it going, guys? So today is the second Patreon exclusive tutorial. This one is really cool, and it's just a ton of nodes. This is a really cool MoGraph shader. It shows you how to make this fiery planet, fiery globe. You can see how the fire is sort of falling off here. It's really cool. It's really interesting, and there's a lot that goes into it. Here's the whole ball. So you can kind of get an idea what's going on here. But I use this for one of my animation packs, and I thought this would be a really cool thing to teach you guys. So let's get into the craziness that is how to make it. So let's go ahead and make a new file. If you want this file, it will be available on the Patreon feed, so you can check that out. All right, so we're here in a blank document, and we're going to want to have Eevee, the Eevee render engine, on, ambient occlusion, bloom, whatever you want to have in your Eevee settings. And we're going to hit Shift-A, Icosphere, and I'm just going to smooth him out and shade smooth. So now we have this guy. I'm going to hit the tilde key, it's right above the tab key for me, and I'm going to click front. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my camera here. So I'm going to slide him back. And in the camera settings here, I'm going to go to an 85mm lens. I want this to be nice and flat. Then I'm going to hit G, middle click. And we're just going to move this so it is, in this view, kind of like that, bring it down. All right, that's just the composition. You can really do whatever you want, but in my opinion, this composition looks the best on this project. So we're going to be using some really weird shading tricks, so let's go straight into doing that. I'm going to minimize this here. Goodness gracious. Trying to minimize these windows here. There we go. And let's go ahead and click on the object, click new, and we have that going there. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this base color here and just bring it all the way to black, and then we're going to get in a mix shader, M-I-X. Mix shader. Sorry, that's a mix RGB, just a regular mix shader. And then we're going to getting in a emission node. Emission, bring the color to a very interesting red here, or really you can make this color whatever you want. It's really up to you. And we'll make the strength here at 30. So let's plug the orange into this bottom socket here. And let's go ahead and get the mix top section. So let's get in a color ramp here and then plug the color into the factor. And we're going to get in a layer weight, and let's plug in the facing into the color ramp. So now we're going to have this really interesting thing happening here. What I want to do is bring this into here. So now we get this really cool ring, and I'm going to go from linear to B-spline because I want it to be a smooth gradient, but really hard here on that edge. And we can really push that by hitting new and then bringing this guy all the way here and making it black as well. And then bring it to something like that, so we can really push that there and keeping these guys together. And what that's going to do is give us this really bright edge right there, which is what we're looking for. And you can kind of edit that, and also having a good fall off over here. So that's how you can do that, and that's what we want here for this really bright initial ring. Now what we're going to do is take this guy here and hold Shift D and duplicate that. We're going to put him on the bottom socket. And let's go ahead and start adding another emission node. So we're going to Shift D, pull him there, and I'm going to give this a strength of 10. And I'm going to plug the emission into the shader. Let's go ahead and bring this guy up because we need to plug some stuff into here. So what I'm going to do is get in a noise texture, NOI, noise texture, plug that there, and also get in a color ramp, COL. We always use color ramps before mix shaders just so everything's flexible and editable. I'm going to plug this color ramp right here into the factor, and we're going to plug this noise texture here. Now, if you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, hit Control T, and we're going to be using the object coordinate. Now, I'm going to put my scale here at 1. This will be the really big portions of this, and let's take this white portion, bring it in, and now we're getting something interesting like this. Now, we're not quite there yet. We're almost done. We need to start messing with this emission node. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this color ramp here, and I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to change the white to that orange that we're seeing on the emission node currently. Plug the color into the color. Now, I know this is really weird. Once we're done, it'll make sense, and you'll be able to play with it and understand it. Right now, just follow along. It's a weird mess of weird things. So this noise texture is really going to start working in a second. So also we need to bring the detail up on this noise texture. So now we get that really interesting looking stuff. What I'm going to do now is get another noise texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Shift A, get NOI, noise texture, go right there. I want to put 3D to 4D on both of these so that that's also flexible and editable. That's always really the most important thing here sometimes, is just editability for you to have fun with it when you're done. So we're going to plug that there and plug the noise texture into here. And what we're going to get is something, and so you're not really going to be able to see too much going on. Once we plug the color ramp through, it's now cutting holes into this noise texture with a smaller texture. So what happens if you really want to see it working, play with the W. That's that one noise texture. This is another noise texture. This is the bigger pieces you're seeing. And so now we have that. We can bring this in if we really want to fill it out. So now we have all this. What I want is there to not be any flames in the middle, just the flames right here like we saw in the original animation. So what we're going to have to do is get a layer weight and just mix it with this noise texture. So we need to get a mix RGB to mix them. So plug that there, plug him on the bottom one, and plug the facing into color. So now we have this craziness, and if we were to take the ball and rotate it, you can see it's doing its thing. What I'm going to do quickly is animate it, and then we'll go ahead and edit it some more. So let's pull this up, go here to the timeline, and I'm going to go back to frame 0, rotation at 0, and we're going to go to the end, 360, add a keyframe. So now that he is rotating, which he's rotating in the wrong direction, let me redo that keyframing. So we need to go 0 here and negative 360. Just like that. Now the flames are going up. Now let's go ahead and edit those flames a little bit more to our liking, and this is when you can just kind of play with it all, playing with this this layer weight to bring the flames up. You can play with the scale here on these to do that. The most effective changing here is with the scale of the first noise texture. That's where you can really play with that. And then you can also edit and play with the W as well, but I didn't do that on my particular animation. And you can play with the color ramp there. It's really all totally cool, totally interesting and editable, and you can play with the brightness here on that section. It's all really interesting and weird, and that's how that's done. You can bring up the detail. But yes, this is how you can achieve a really interesting sort of flaming MoGraph ball that when it rotates, you get something really, really cool. So that's how that works. That's how you can do that. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. This is just a really interesting, flexible way of, shading and having a lot of fun with shading and making this weird looking MoGraph fire. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something.